Alright, welcome to my web design class. This is a 5-week class, and in the interest of keeping things simple, I'm not going to require that anyone pay for server space. So the server space is the place where your website resides. If you're serious about web design, you probably want to go ahead and get that started, and maybe some of you already do have a website where you're paying for server space. But in this particular class, I've found a workaround so that we can host our websites for free on github.com. So the first thing we want to do is to download a couple pieces of free software. Desktop.github.io has this particular piece, and it says Mac OS, but it's available for Windows too. And the same goes for Atom. So atom.io, that's going to get us a plain text editor. And then this is versioning software that allows us to compare and update local copies of our files with copies up on GitHub. So once you have those two pieces of software installed, you want to head over to GitHub and also make a GitHub account. When I land on GitHub, I can see over here a long list of the repos that I have. That stands for repositories. Basically, every project is a repository. But instead of making a new one through the site, let's make a new one through the software that we just downloaded. So I'm going to head over to GitHub Desktop. Okay, so you can ignore what it's saying right here. These are just some confusions that it had with other repos of mine. I'll go up to File and New Repository, and we'll call this one, how about my first website? It's important to get in the habit of not leaving spaces in the file names for documents you're going to find up on the web for technical reasons. So I always put like an underscore or a period. Actually, don't use a period either. So avoid periods and spaces. Dashes or underscores work well. I'll leave the rest of this stuff blank and say create the repo, and then I'll have to go ahead and publish it. So it seems funny to publish it with nothing in there, but basically we're just establishing a folder up online somewhere that has nothing in it. You also want to uncheck keep code private because I need to be able to see this so I can grade it. Okay, we published that repository, my first website, great. Okay, it's going to take a second to communicate with GitHub, and then we're all done. Now we will move over to Atom, which is our plain text editor, and this is where most of the work is going to get done in this class. The first thing I'll do is go to File and say Add Project Folder, and I'll navigate to GitHub, and I've got a lot of repos in here. You'll probably just have one at this point, and I think it was called My First Site, alphabetical order. Okay, my first website, we'll open that up. You'll see over here there's a couple of folders that have goodies in them that have to do with version control, and you really shouldn't touch any of this stuff. So I would just collapse that so you don't accidentally start overwriting those files. And now I'll go up to File and New, and then I'll just write something like hello. And believe it or not, this is a functioning website. So while we're going to be learning a lot of HTML and CSS code, if you want to make something ultra simple that just renders a little bit of text, you actually don't need to really know any coding at all. Now I'll go to File and Save As. And this is going to be saved as index.html. And it's very important you do this exactly like I'm doing it. So if you name something index.html, a browser knows to automatically go to that page and to render it like a website instead of reading it like just a bunch of text, right? You don't want to see your code written out. You want to see your code doing its work. So we save index.html. Now I'm going to head back to GitHub Desktop, and you can see that it understands that there's been one changed file. So we have a new file inside of our folder called index.html. You always need to have a note whenever you're uploading something to GitHub because it wants to help you track changes. If the file is brand new, it will auto-populate create so-and-so. But for every subsequent change, we're going to need to change that field. This is all looking good, so now I'll say commit to main and then push to origin, which I can click here or there. So commit to main and push to origin, and now that material is going to be able to, we can find it online, but there's one more important step. So let's go back to our GitHub account, and I'm going to start typing in my, and you can see I can find my first website that's been uploaded. If I click on it, I'll see, you know, there's some files here I don't want to mess with, but then index.html was created 22 seconds ago, and if I click on it, it'll show me what the contents are. So that's great, but I want this to render as a website, right? So let's go back. I'm up here at the top level of my repo, and I'm going to click over here on the gear that says Settings. And I'll scroll towards the bottom, and just above the danger zone, where you can delete stuff, we have an opportunity to change the source. So I will change that source from none to main, and then hit save. And then I'll have to scroll back down again, but now you can see it gives me a link that shows me where that can be found. And the address is a little different. So before it was github.com, the repo name, and my first website. But now it's taylorhokanson.github.io/myfirstwebsite. So it gives you this sort of new little URL. And if I click on it, if I'm lucky, it's going to render right away. And sometimes when you have a very simple website, it's going to go ahead and pop up right away. But this was sort of the #1 thing that confused my students just on and on through the previous semesters, is what happens if you upload everything, if you change the branch to main, and then you click on the site and it gives you a 404 error and it says that nothing is found. So the downside of using this free service is that the upload is usually not this instant. And so in many cases, you'll upload a change and you'll have to wait 5 or 10 minutes before you see that change render online. So because of that, we're going to be evaluating our websites locally and then just uploading them at the very end of our work when they're ready to be turned in. So let's say that I type in hello there and I save it. I go back over to GitHub Desktop and I want to push the change, right? So you can see here's the old line and here's the new line. And it's just telling me, oh, it looks like it's putting these updates in automatically, which is great. Didn't used to do that. So I'll commit that to main, push it to origin, watch right here, takes a second, and then it's done. Now if I head back out to Firefox and I hit reload, you know, hello is not updating to hello there. So let's see what the deal is. If I go into my Finder and I want to open up my web class, oh, I'm sorry, I want to open my my GitHub account, so that's going to be Documents, GitHub, my first site, and so on. Now I can right-click on this file. So this file is what we call local. This file is located on my computer. So I can open this up with Firefox or whatever browser you prefer. And you can see that hello there is rendered correctly. Also note the URL bar here. See how the URL goes file / and so forth. So I can tell this is located on my computer. And through GitHub Desktop, I want to have an identical copy found here at taylorhokanson.github.io. So let's try reloading it one more time. And now you can see it's updated. So while you're working on your computer, you'll want to be assessing this local version of the file that's found, you know, here locally with me. We make a change, we reload it in the browser, we make a change, on, and then once you like what your site is looking like, then you go ahead and upload it via GitHub Desktop. It becomes visible to me. However, that might not render for another 5 or 10 minutes. So when you're handing stuff in, you might get done, you know, halfway through the class. Then you'll upload this thing, you'll post the link up on Canvas, but then you need to wait for 5 or 10 minutes and just verify that it is actually rendering, because there are other reasons, other problems you could have that'll cause it to say 404, but then that 404 error will last forever if you're not careful. So downside is it takes a little bit of extra time. Upside is it's free. And that's how we're going to post all of our websites during the course of this class.